Welcome back, everybody. My name is Tucker, and in today's video, we're going to be a little bit more positive. Happy Thanksgiving, first of all, to those of you that celebrated. Hope you guys have an awesome day. And I know I've been a little bit negative about a lot of free agency stuff over the last couple of days. So in today's video, I wanted to flip that around and talk about some of my favorite signings from this past week or so of NBA free agency. And yeah, that's what we're going to be talking about in today's video. But really quickly, before the video gets started, I want to talk about the sponsor of today's video, Manscaped. So for my family around the holidays, they always request that we put what we want for gifts on a list. And this is a great thing to put on your list this year, the Performance Package from Manscaped. It includes a ton of great products that we've already talked about in the past, including the Lawnmower 3.0, which has an LED light, is rechargeable, and is water resistant, as well as the Weed Whacker ear and nose trimmer, along with a ton of other stuff, including the Crop Preserver deodorant, Crop Reviver toner, a luxury stainless steel nail kit, a Manscaped travel bag, and a pair of boxers, all part of the Performance Package from Manscaped. This is truly an all-in-one solution for men's grooming and is a great addition to your own holiday list or as a gift for someone else. And you could use my code SPORTING20 at checkout for 20% off your next order. Again, that is SPORTING20 at checkout for 20% off your next order from Manscaped. And thank you again to Manscaped for sponsoring this video. Okay, so first up at number one is a deal that at first got misreported, and then we found out the actual number, and I liked it either way. And that is Christian Wood signing with the Houston Rockets. At first, it was 3 years, $27 million, which would have been a great deal. It was then later reported it's actually 3 years, $41 million. But regardless, I really like this move specifically for Houston, but in general, I think it's a pretty fair price for Christian Wood. So Wood was always going to be a really interesting free agent this offseason because we basically got like a little bit less than half a season of really, really good Christian Wood. Once, Blake Griffin was fully out of the rotation, once they finally gave him a shot, he really showed how talented of a player he is as an inside-out scorer, someone that is talented on the offensive end, still has room to grow and develop in other parts of the game, but is a young player that was, always going to be at least an intriguing free agent target. And for a Rockets team that has a lot of stuff going on, to be able to get a player like Wood in the front court that really, really helps them and is a younger player on a pretty fair deal, I think is a massive positive for them. We have no idea really what's going to happen with James Harden or Russell Westbrook moving forward, but we do know that no matter what, at least they have someone else that they can maybe not build around, but they can at least see what they do moving forward here in Christian Wood. So at the end of the day, I think it's a fair price. I like the fit, and Wood is going to be able to go in there and play immediately because they don't have, a lot of other front court options there in Houston, obviously, after kind of the roster overhaul that they had last year, moving away from Clint Capella and players like that. So we'll see what Christian Wood can do next year in Houston, but I really, really like that move. Okay, next up now is a player that actually made it onto my pre-free agency list of some of the better value guys out there on the market, and it is Tristan Thompson, who ends up going to the Celtics on a 2-year, $19 million deal. Now, the Celtics are probably one of the teams that I have been the hardest on to this point in the offseason because of how they handled the Gordon Hayward situation, the fact they didn't get anything in return for him in the sign and trade, but at the end of the day, they did still do some good things in free agency, including bringing in Tristan Thompson, who should be a plug-and-play starter at the 5 for this team and is still a really valuable guy and a player that I think a lot of people have just kind of forgotten about a little bit. I mean, a handful of years ago, he was a starting 5 on a championship team. He's a really good pick and roll defender when he's fully engaged, and as long as he's healthy, he's going to be someone that does a lot of really good things for Boston. He's a good rebounder, especially on the offensive end of the floor, and as I said, can move his feet pretty well in pick and rolls and should be able to finish around the basket for them. And that's pretty much all that Boston is going to need out of their 5-man, and that is a role that Tristan Thompson has done for a while and done well. And I think it's a great pickup for Boston. Despite some of the other issues that I think their offseason had, I do think that bringing in Tristan Thompson was a nice move considering the amount of money they're going to be paying. It seems like a really good fit as well. So Thompson to Boston is another signing that I really, really like. Next up now is a deal that was signed a little bit later on in free agency, but one that I still really like. And it's Jae Crowder going to the Phoenix Suns on a 3-year, $30 million deal. And I talked about Crowder as well as the next player on this list after the season was over, talking about how the Miami Heat were going to have some decisions to make on this roster, and they were going to have to decide, what they were going to prioritize. Were they going to prioritize bringing back players like Jae Crowder on longer term deals that they certainly earned based off their performance in the bubble as well as on the Heat during the regular season? Or were they going to prioritize that 2021 cap space and try and sign players to bigger 1-year deals, or simply let them walk? And at the end of the day, Crowder chose to go to Phoenix on a deal worth $10 million a year on a little bit more long-term security, which makes me think that Miami was offering him 1-and-1 or 1-year deals somewhere in the $12 to $13 million range, and he would rather have the long-term security. Now, for Phoenix specifically, getting another wing guy that can be a combo, even play the 4 at times, combo 3-4 guy that can shoot, can defend, is never going to be a bad thing. There's really not a ton of guys like that out there in the league that can consistently knock down shots and defend at a high level the way that Crowder can. And I think that is a really, really good pickup for a Phoenix team that has a lot of young guys currently occupying that type of role of the combo 3-4, the wing defender. And so having a bit more of a veteran presence on a very tradable and movable $10 million a year, if it comes down to it, is a really, really nice option to have there for Phoenix. I like the fit there for Crowder as well. He's going to be asked to do very similar things to what he's been asked to do throughout his career. They're not going to ask him to do too much. It's all about the Chris Paul, Devin Booker, playmaking and perimeter creation, and then DeAndre Ayton inside as well. And Crowder will just be on the perimeter, defending, making shots. Really, really good pickup there, and I love the price that they got him at as well. I'm sure in another scenario, if Miami wasn't saving cap space for 2021, he would have returned there, but given how everything's working out there, he ended up deciding to move on to Phoenix. Next up is another Miami Heat free agent, and it is Goran Dragic. And it might be a bit surprising for some people that this guy's on this list, considering that he signed a contract for 2 years and $34 million, which is a big number for Goran Dragic, who's a player that's definitely getting older, has had some injury issues in the past, and came off the bench for a lot of the year for Miami. But once we got to the bubble, it became clear how important Dragic really is to that team as another perimeter creator so that Jimmy Butler doesn't have to do everything. And yes, the number is a lot to pay for Goran Dragic at this stage of his career, but the reason that I like it is that they were able to retain him, unlike Jae Crowder, and they got him on that 1-and-1 team option deal for next offseason so that they can decline that option and open up cap space in the summer of 2021 if they choose to do so, while still maintaining competency and ideally a competitive roster for next season as well, by keeping Dragic there. It's a very odd balancing act that the Heat had to kind of deal with this offseason, and as we talked about in the previous entry, it ended up resulting in them losing Crowder, but thankfully they were able to bring back Dragic on this 1-year deal. And if it was a multi-year deal on this salary number, I would not like the deal at all. It'd be a huge overpay, but a 1-year overpay for a team in the Heat situation is not the end of the world at all, and I think it's a big, big deal that they were able to retain Dragic in free agency. Second to last now is a bit more of a kind of under the radar, sneaky one here, and it's Bryn Forbes going to the Milwaukee Bucks on a 2-year, $4.7 million deal. And I'm sure some of you are sitting there thinking, like, Tucker, why is this guy on a list of other players that have been impactful on championship level teams, or a young player like Christian Wood? Why is Bryn Forbes on here? I just think he's one of those guys that I don't really think people understand, how good of a shooter Bryn Forbes is, and that's going to be a really good fit with Milwaukee. Now, defensively, he's not going to be able to offer a ton, and playmaking wise, he isn't either. But to get a shooting specialist at a pretty low number there in Milwaukee, and a guy that, again, just fits really well there for that team, I really, really like the pickup. Amongst a handful of pretty sneaky good pickups there for Milwaukee, I considered putting DJ Augustin on this list as well, another guy that made that pre-free agency list of some of the better value free agents on the market. But just in terms of the value you're getting for a player like Bryn Forbes compared to the amount of money that you're paying him, I decided to put him on the list over someone like Augustin that is signed not only on a longer term deal, but also to a bigger number. So I like the Bryn Forbes fit there, but I think there were a couple of options you could have added to this list for Milwaukee. And then last up now is one that definitely surprised me, and it's Marc Gasol going to the Lakers on a 2-year, $5.3 million deal. The reason that this surprised me is because pretty early on in the free agency process, it seemed like Marc Gasol was going to be leaving the NBA and going to play overseas, and at some point that decision changed, and he decided to look for a new home in the NBA. And there were a lot of suitors, most notably the Dallas Mavericks is what it came down to there at the end, as he was looking for a different team outside of Toronto. And landing in LA is about as close to ideal as it gets for someone like Marc Gasol at this stage of his career. He gets an opportunity to play with LeBron, play with Anthony Davis. They should certainly be a championship caliber team for next season. He can either start at the 5 alongside Davis and play 15 to 20 minutes a game, and then Harold can come in off the bench, or he can just be a bench big guy that can kind of spell some of the other guys at the 5 spot. Whatever they're going to need out of Marc Gasol, he should be able to provide, because they really shouldn't be asking too much of him. Ideally, He finds his ability to make shots from three-point range again, which was kind of lost last season. And as long as he's healthy, he should be a productive, solid player for this group. He's a good passing big man as well. And again, when healthy, is a really good defender at the 5 spot as well. And just a really intelligent player that should fit and mesh really well with LeBron, with Anthony Davis, with everything else that LA has going on there. And on top of all the other moves that they made that I've already talked about in previous videos, whether bringing in Wes Matthews, whether it be bringing in Dennis Schroeder, bringing back KCP, this is just another part of a really, really strong offseason for the Lakers, but I hadn't talked specifically about the Marc Gasol signing, so I wanted to put it in here. So those are my top free agency signings of this entire offseason. We've got Christian Wood, Tristan Thompson, Jae Crowder, Goran Dragic, Bryn Forbes, and Marc Gasol. I understand that those aren't the craziest names in the world, but that was kind of just, the situation of this offseason, right? Like there's not going to be, big time players that are signing on value level deals this offseason, just because there weren't really that many good free agency targets out there, and the ones that were out there got scooped up pretty quickly and at a pretty high price, as we talked about in some of more negative videos I've had this week. Guys like Joe Harris, guys like Davis Bertans, who are good players, but I think simply were overpaid. Those types of guys got scooped up quickly, so value was a little bit more difficult to find than I had anticipated, but I think these teams did a good job of finding that value in this free agency market. But that is going to be the end of today's video, and I thank you all very much for watching. Once again, my name is Tucker. If you missed any of my previous videos, then be sure to check out the boxes on screen. Hope you guys have an awesome rest of your day, and I will see you all next time.